My name is Charles Martino, and I am the broker owner of Martino Realty and Richmond County Mortgage. I have been involved in real estate for about 34 years. I've been involved in all different aspects of it, buying, selling, building, mortgages, financing, so there's kind of anything I can tell people. Any question you ever ask me about real estate, I know a lot of it. I still learn, but there's very few questions that people kind of stump me with, and I tell people, don't ever be embarrassed to ask me any questions, because I guarantee you, you will not be the first person to ask me that question. So with that, start, go through. So this is our Home Buyer 101 seminar is what we call it. And what we're going to do is we're going to go through briefly with you the home buying process. 10 steps. One of them is we get pre-qualified. Very important, and it comes first because we don't want people going forward. And just so that everyone knows, in the packets that you have, our complete presentation plus other notes and things are in there. So you don't have to take notes. You don't have to worry about it. It's all in there. So you're going to get pre-qualified first thing that you're going to do. You're going to select a realtor. You're going to set some goals and objectives. You're going to go out and view homes. And notice, this is kind of in the middle, viewing homes. Most times people start there. They go out, they'll go start looking at homes, and then they go, oh, gee, this is great. And then all of a sudden go, hey, wait, let me go find out what I'm supposed to be looking at. Don't do it that way. And I'll get into some reasons as we get into that. When you see a home you like, you're going to make an offer. You'll do a home inspection, sign a contract, apply for a mortgage. Your attorney will order a title, and then finally you go to closing. So, first up, whenever I sit down with a couple or a client and I talk about pre-qualifying, more important than pre-qualifying is I try and come up with what I call a financial comfort zone. And what I find interesting about that is when I sit down with especially first-time home buyers, young couples just getting married, and I sit down and the first question I'll always ask them is, how much a month do you plan on spending? What's your monthly budget? What can you afford to spend per month? And I always get kind of the deer in the headlights look. And they look at me like, what do you mean? I didn't know this was going to be a quiz. And I'll tell them, it's very important to do that. So in your packets, you'll see there's a sheet here. Real simple. What's your income? How much money do you make? Take out your expenses. What's left at the end? And that's what you have left to spend as a monthly housing payment. More important than what you qualify for, because we can qualify you for a certain loan amount. Doesn't mean you can actually pay it. Sometimes, believe it or not, banks will give more money than you can actually afford to pay. That's how people got into trouble back in 2007 and before that. So I always start here in what I call a reality. How much a month do you feel comfortable spending? Then we get into the actual qualifying. When they qualify for a mortgage, banks consider different things. They consider credit, income, assets, and property. So first thing they consider is your credit. Everyone has 3 credit scores, okay? There are 3 credit agencies out there, Equifax, TransUnion, and Experian, okay? One of the things that I find interesting is with the credit scores is I have a lot of clients that will sit down with me and they'll say, hey, I know my credit score is this. And I'll always ask them, where did you hear that? And in today's world, everybody just about gets a credit card statement. Oh, we can give you your credit score with your credit card statement. Or there's this company that finds out for you and that company. One of the things that I found through the years is they're not always so accurate, that those scores are not really your scores. You can really only get your actual credit scores directly from the credit bureaus. What these other companies do is they set up kind of algorithms and systems that they try and mirror what the credit companies do. But I do find a lot of times those scores are a little bit off, okay? So when we pull them directly from the credit bureaus. Okay, we give you scores. And what the banks do is they get rid of your high score, they get rid of your low score, and they use your middle score. So let's say if we have a couple, and you have a 720, a 710, and a 740, and what they'll do is they'll get rid of the high and the low, they'll use the middle for a 720, and then they have a co-borrower borrowing with them. They have their 3 scores, we use the middle, they have a 690, then we end up using the lower of those 2. So the bank will always go to the worst case scenario, and they'll use that 690 score. Some things to consider with your credit, and I kind of spend a lot of time on credit because whether it's buying a house or anything else, credit is important today. Some things to look at that affect your credit score. Obviously, the most obvious one is paying your bills on time. When you pay things, try and keep track of it, even if it's a minimum payment. I get some people who, I usually, the minimum payment is $25 a month, but I usually spend $200 a month, and I didn't have the $200. Send the $25. Keep it on time. Even if it's only the minimum, keep it on time. More importantly than that, a lot of people don't realize, and especially with store cards, you get in trouble with this. You apply for a store card, and everybody goes in, hey, we're going to give you that discount. We're going to give you that 20% off for applying for your credit card at the store. You apply for that card. More often than not, what the store does is you're making a $300 purchase. They're going to give you a $300 credit line. What happens is the way that reads on your credit is you're maxed out. You have a $300 credit line with a $300 balance, and the way the credit reads is, ooh, you're in trouble. You owe out all of your money. Even if it's only $300, even if you're going to pay it off in the next month, during that period while it's there, and I find it more often than not with store cards is where that happens. So one of the things I tell people all the time is try to never go above 50% of your limit. So if you have a $1,000 limit, don't charge more than $500 on it. Spread it over 2 cards if you have to. Okay, very important. Second thing that I find a lot on credit is small collections. Sometimes there'll be a copay on a medical bill. I get a lot of those little $50, and you say, I'll show them, I'm not going to pay it. In the end, they show you because they put it on your credit, and that little $50 charge all of a sudden brought your score down, which ultimately cost you more in an interest rate. So, income. They're going to look at your income to see how you qualify for your loan. How are you going to pay for this mortgage? And what they'll do is they'll take to document your income, they'll look at your pay stubs, they'll look at your W-2s. If you're self-employed, they'll look at your tax returns. You can only use documented income. So if you work a job that's off the books, a bank will not use that to qualify. What they're going to do is they're going to take your income and they're going to figure out what they call your ratios. What the bank wants to know is how much of your income pays for your house and how much of your income pays for your house plus your debt. So they're going to simply take your house payment and they're going to take your income. In our example here, we have, let's say, you make $75,000 a year and you have a $2,000 housing expense. That's 32% of your income. 32% of your income is okay for a mortgage. When people give me that original deer in the headlights look, when they don't have any idea how much to spend, I usually tell people we start at like 25%. So that's a good rule of thumb to use. And then depending upon you and your future income and things like that, sometimes we stretch up from there. Banks will give you as high as about 39 or 40% of your house, of your income. What's interesting about that is that's your gross income. And you'll know your gross income is not your net. So when they give you 40% of your gross income to pay for your house, it's a pretty big number. Okay, and that's where sometimes we can get into trouble to try to avoid that. Second number they use is your debt. They want to know, do you have car payments, student loans, things like that. They're going to add up those payments and divide that by your income as well. In this case, we have 40%. 40% is okay for your debt. It's all your monthly bills, so that's kind of okay. Again, banks allow us to go as high as like 49% of that. So that's literally half of your income, gross income, just paying for your house and your loans and student loans and things like that. That's a pretty big number, and you can kind of get yourself into trouble there. So again, we're going to try and keep you towards that lower number. It's also, again, why it's important to do this. They're going to look at your assets. How much money do you have? Good news is we have loans with as little as 3.5% down. The days of you need 20% down, 25% down are long gone. So with 3.5%, and the 3.5% can be a gift. The 3.5% can be a loan from, if you have a pension at work, a pension loan, a 401k loan, something like that. So there's plenty of creative ways you can come up with that. You do have to verify your assets that you are using. So perfect example, I give this all the time, is sometimes mom, dad, aunt, uncle want to give you a gift. And they think they're doing you a favor by handing you an envelope with $5,000 in cash in it and saying, here, put this towards your house. The unfortunate part about that is we can't document that, so we can't use it. So I tell people, if you're going to do gifts, there's a process you have to follow. We have to document the money from one account to another account, so it's important that we show it. Any money that you have that we can't document, what I usually tell clients to do is wait 2 months, because that's what a bank considers documented. So if there's money in the bank and you put it in there a month ago, I'm going to say wait 1 more month before you go out and buy, because the bank goes back to bank statements. They ask for 60 days prior to your contract. So anything prior to that, they don't care about. The property, very simple. Not mortgageable, mortgageable, okay? When banks, they send an appraiser out to value your property, and the appraiser will look at the property, they'll determine a value for it, and they'll also look to make sure it's mortgageable. What a bank considers mortgageable has to be habitable. You have to have working plumbing, you have to have heat, and you have to have a kitchen. There are some homes you would walk in and you'd be like, eeks. But it's still mortgageable because it has working bathroom, kitchen, and working heat. If a house is falling down, they're going to say, no, it's not mortgageable. Unfortunately, in today's world, everybody watches, HGTV, and everybody looks at these houses, and I get a lot of clients who sit down and they want to buy this because, in a 30-minute episode, you could turn this into this. Unfortunately, not a reality, financially or time-wise, and it's how a lot of people sometimes get into trouble. So I try and, especially first-time homebuyers, I try and talk them out of that. There are some mortgage programs out there, though. If you do want to buy a fixer-upper and do it, there are some programs out there to do it. You have to know what you're doing. I tell people, you know, it's not an easy process to go through. Everything takes twice as long and costs twice as much. Closing costs, I'm not going to get into detailed closing costs, but in your package is what they call a loan estimate that actually gives you a detailed list of what closing costs are. I can tell you it's a big number, especially in New York. Closing costs are about 4 to 5% of your loan amount. Average loan we do is about a $400,000 loan, so that's about a $20,000 closing cost. Big part of your number. We can build a lot of that into a price of a house, into your mortgage rate, into things like that. So again, it's not all cash you have to come up with. But that is something to consider when you're looking. Closing costs are basically broken out of bank charges, title charges, prepaids and escrows. Again, closing costs is kind of a big detailed list, so there's a copy of it in there. I'm not going to get into all the details of that. Second to qualifying, most important thing you're going to do is select a realtor. Okay? Selecting a realtor, very, very important. 4 things: knowledge, comfort, availability, and representation. Okay? We want to make sure that they're knowledgeable in the market. Okay? It's a great thing that a lot of people get involved in real estate and work in real estate. And I could say if I went around this room, I would probably find a couple of you have an aunt, uncle, cousin, somebody who works in the real estate business. Okay? Maybe they got their license 10 years ago and they haven't sold a house, but they're in the real estate business. Okay? What I try and tell people to do is that's great, and it's great to want to use people, but make sure whoever you use is an active agent, especially in this market. We are in a crazy, crazy real estate market right now. It is harder to buy a home on Staten Island now than ever before. Okay, and you need someone who knows that market, who knows how to try and get you into a property. So they need to know the market. They need to be actively involved in the market to know what's going on. Comfort. Again, because it's a difficult market, you're going to spend a lot of time with this person. You're going to have a lot of conversations with this person. Be comfortable with them. If it's someone, you know, you might be kind of a straight person and you don't like joking and things like that, that's okay. Find an agent that acts that way. I'm not your guy. I'm going to joke around with you, okay? If you're someone who wants to joke around something and take things maybe not so serious, that's okay, you know, but you need someone you're comfortable with. You want to be able to ask them questions. You know, you don't want to say, I don't really want to call them. You want to be able to pick up the phone at any time, call, and ask a question regardless of what it is, okay? Availability, more now than ever, okay? We listed a property last night. We have 16 showings on that property tonight. 16 people from last night to tonight are going in to look at that house. That is the kind of market that we're in. So what I mean by availability is if you're working with an agent who you call up and you say, hey, I found this great house online. Number one, you shouldn't be finding that house. They should be calling you and say, hey, this house just came up for sale. That's a knowledgeable full-time agent. If you call them and say, I want to go see this house tonight, and they say, oh, I'm sorry, I have a birthday party to go to. Let's go next Tuesday. Okay? That house is gone by then. Okay? That's not your agent, not in this market. Okay? So again, you need to have availability. Representation. Real estate agents can work as one of 2 things, a buyer's agent or a seller's agent. And this is something that most people don't get. A lot of people will drive by a house and see a sign and call up the sign or see an ad and call the listing agent for that house. That's okay, but just understand, that agent does not work for you. That agent does not represent you in any way, shape, or form. It's their job to represent the seller, and they represent the seller's best interests. So what that means in the end is, it's their job to get you to pay the highest possible price that you can pay for that home. Okay? The reverse of that is, if you work with a buyer's agent, they only represent your best interest. Okay? It's their job to get you the best possible deal on that house, or in some cases just to get you the house, period. It's their job to do that for you. Okay? So make sure you know what representation you're dealing with, and ask an agent that. You know, you're representing me as a buyer's agent, and if they say no, say, okay, thank you, I'm going to go find someone who is. We're selecting a realtor, one of the most important things you can do. Setting the goals and objectives. What do you want to buy? Where do you want to buy it? When do you want to buy it? How long? You know, I tell people you got to separate your wants versus your needs. Okay? Everybody wants, you know, the nice big house with the pool. Maybe that's not necessarily what you need. This may come down the line, but you got to separate out your wants and your needs. Very important. Okay? Your time frame. Hey, you know what? We need 2 bedrooms. We need 1 bathroom. We want 5 bedrooms and 3 bathrooms, but not always the case. I tell a lot of first-time home buyers, this is your first home, you're getting your foot in the door. Make sure it satisfies your needs right now, and then going forward from there, possibly you can move up into something else. But very important to do that. The other thing I tell people is look beyond. You know, when you're going into a house, you know, it might not be your taste in decorating. You know, I tell people, especially in today's market, the perfect house that you want to buy is your grandmother's house. You want to buy the house that's clean, spotless clean, but it has a kitchen from 40 years ago, has a bathroom from 25 years ago, you know, and it has the green shag carpet from the 80s. You know, that's the house that you want to buy because there's cosmetic stuff, you know, and you can move in and you can live there, it's okay, and then you can do projects a little bit at a time. The difference between buying that house and buying the house that everybody loves today with the granite tops and the stainless steel appliances and the beautiful lighting, there's a substantial difference in price today and also availability of it. The newer homes go instantly. Anything that's upgraded and sell for a lot more than the home that needs just a little bit of work. So I tell people put a little bit of sweat equity into it, and that's how you get ahead. You know, like I said, buy it. Not that house that I just showed you that was falling down, but buy your grandmother's house that's a little bit older but still clean and you can move in. Making an offer, negotiations. You see something you like, you're going to make them an offer they can't refuse, okay? Especially in this market, okay? Very difficult market today. The first time you go out with a realtor, again, it's someone that you become comfortable with. You're going to look at a house that's $500,000. You're going to go walk through the house like this one tonight with 16 other people looking at it. You're going to walk out the door. You can go, we love it, we want it, what do we do? And your realtor's going to say, okay, they're asking $500, we're going to offer $525. And you're going to look at the realtor like they have 6 heads, and you can go, that's not how it works. We offer $450, they come back and forth. That does still happen sometimes. More often than not in today's market, most of the homes, if they're priced correctly to begin with, are selling at full or above full, okay? Again, you're going to look at the realtor like they're crazy, and that's not how it works. And especially when you go home and you talk to family members who've done this before, they're going to say, are you out of your mind? You can't offer them more. And what I tell most people is, you will lose 2 or 3 houses before you say, wow, they weren't kidding, okay? We had one client, one couple, my heart broke for them. I think they lost six deals. They put 6 offers into 6 houses, all of them well above the asking price. They didn't get one of them because somebody just came in and bid higher and higher and higher. And there is a point when you're making an offer on something. You know, we're going to discuss with you what I call comparable sales. And we don't want you to overpay for something where you're going to get hurt. So we're going to look at other homes that sold in the neighborhood. And if other homes sold for $500,000 in a neighborhood, we're going to say it's kind of what that house is worth, okay? So should you pay $650 for a 500 house? No, you're going to get hurt, and it won't appraise for a mortgage anyway. Could you pay $525? Maybe. You know, I ask people, you know, one of the things that's new to this market is I'll ask people what else. So I'll say, hey, this home is worth $500,000, and in order to get it, you're going to have to pay $520. And some people will say, well, what if we don't get this? I'll say, well, what else are you going to buy? Okay, that becomes a question that we have to start asking ourselves when we're in this kind of market. You're going to do a home inspection, okay, so that this doesn't happen to you, okay? Home inspection is when an engineer is going to go through a property. They're going to go through, they're going to see what's wrong with the house. If there is anything wrong with it, they're going to give you a book like this thick, and I tell people don't panic. We'll go through it and we'll figure out what needs to be repaired, if there are any repairs, and then we'll go back to the seller and we'll try and renegotiate to get some of those repairs done for you. We'll get you a credit back for it. Home inspections, again, as I said, you're going to get a stack of papers like that, whether the house looks like that or like that. It's interesting. It's the same big report that they give you, but we'll go through and we'll figure out really what the real issues are that you have taken care of. After you do a home inspection, you're going to go hire an attorney. You can actually sign a contract, and that's for the first time you're really committed to buying a home. And you're going to cut them a sizable check, usually 3 to 5% of the purchase price. So that's a good check you can cut them. Your attorney, again, use the same criteria for your attorney that you use as your realtor. You want someone who's knowledgeable, someone who's available. You don't want to use, I get this one a lot. Hey, my uncle is a personal injury attorney in Manhattan. Yeah, you don't want to use him for a real estate deal in Staten Island. I'm sorry. He's busy working on that stuff. He's not going to take your call for a closing here. Okay? So make sure you know someone who is in real estate. Make sure they're local. After that, you're going to put in your mortgage application, which at this point goes pretty easy because everybody started the mortgage process up front. They got pre-qualified, so they know they're okay. Your mortgage application is that you're going to sign all the paperwork. You're going to give proof of all documentation of your income and your assets. The bank is going to review it. A person called an underwriter at the bank is going to say yes or no. We already know they're going to say yes because we do that up front. They're going to turn around and they're going to issue a document that says, hey, yes, we're going to give you the money to buy the house. After that, your attorney will order what they call a title search and a survey. They're going to do searches to make sure there's no liens or judgments or anything against you or the sellers to make sure you get what's called free and clear title to the property. They'll order a survey to show the boundaries of the property to make sure none of your neighbors' fences are on your property or they didn't build any structures that are interfering with your use of the property. At the end, you're going to go to a closing. You're going to sit around a table. You're going to sign a bunch of documents, and you get keys. You know, the interesting thing I find about closings is there's a table full of usually about minimum of 6 people, sometimes up to about 10, 12 people sitting around a table. And a lot of times the buyer will walk in and they'll turn to me, who pays them, and who pays them, who pays them? And I tell every buyer, you're the only person who brings money into that room. Everybody else leaves with your money. Okay, so everybody sitting at that table, one way, shape, or form, gets paid by you. So keep that in mind when you go to closing. But that's the great day where you get your keys. If anybody has any questions, we use this image specifically as a roller coaster because although this is supposed to be a fun, happy process, when you do go out to mortgage and buy a house, it's not. It's a roller coaster. You know, I tell people that initial, you know, when you're in a roller coaster and it's going up and you hit a click, 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 click as you're going up, it's how you feel when you start this process. You're a little nervous, you're happy at points, at other points it's like, oh my God, what are we doing? But it is a process ultimately.